My brother didn't stab me in the back. He smiled at me, shook my hand, and walked into the room I had spent 12 years building, and he sat down in my chair. And for a long time I let him. Welcome to Betrayed Blood. I'm Marcus, 41. And this is the story of how my own brother used my name, my reputation, and my entire career history to take the one seat at the table I had earned with my own hands. The seat that was supposed to be mine. He didn't forge documents. He didn't hack a system. He did something far more precise. He told a room full of powerful people a version of my story, with his name on it. And it worked. For almost 3 years, it worked perfectly, until the chairman walked in. But before I get there, you need to understand what that seat actually meant. Because if you think this is just a story about a job, you're going to miss everything. I started at Hargrove Capital when I was 28. Junior analyst, bottom of the floor. My brother Daniel was 25 at the time, still finishing his MBA, still calling me every Sunday asking how the industry worked, what books to read, who to talk to. I answered every single call. I thought that's what older brothers did. I moved up slowly, the right way. I built relationships over years, not months. I stayed late when nobody asked me to. I took the cases nobody wanted because I knew the cases nobody wanted were the ones that taught you the most. By the time I was 38, I was being considered for a managing director seat on the private equity committee. A seat that only opened up once every several years. I told Daniel about it on a Sunday call, like I always did. That was my mistake. Not the only one I made with my brother, but the one that set everything else in motion. What happened next took me almost 2 years to fully understand. And when I finally did understand it, the number I was looking at, the cost of trusting him, didn't fit inside any category I had a word for. Stay with me, because this story ends in a boardroom. And I promise you, the chairman said things that day that nobody in that room will ever forget. Here is the thing about a lie that works. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be complicated. It just needs to arrive before the truth does. Daniel joined Hargrove Capital 14 months after my conversation with him. I'm the one who referred him. I walked his resume to the hiring director personally. I vouched for him in a room where my word still meant something. He got the job because of me. He knew it. I knew it. And for a while, that felt like exactly what it was. A brother helping a brother get a foothold. What I didn't see was that Daniel had come in with a plan that had nothing to do with earning a foothold. He was quiet about it. That's the part that still sits with me when I replay it. He wasn't flashy. He didn't overclaim in meetings. He asked smart questions, he deferred to senior people, and he made himself useful in the specific, careful way of someone who is building something, not someone who is just doing a job. I thought he was learning the business. He was learning the room. Over the next year, Daniel did something I only understood in hindsight. He started telling my stories, not copying them exactly, not plagiarizing word for word, something more surgical than that. He would take a deal I had worked, a restructuring I had led, a relationship I had spent years cultivating, and he would talk about it in conversations I wasn't in. Slightly repositioned, told from an angle that never technically said he had done it, but never corrected anyone who assumed it either. He let people draw the wrong conclusion and then he just didn't fix it. That's not lying, is it? That's just not correcting a mistake. Except he made sure the mistake kept happening. In every room, with every person who mattered. By the time the MD seat came up for formal review, 3 members of the selection committee believed Daniel had been central to 2 of my biggest wins at the firm. They had his version of my career in their heads. And my version, the real one, was just a story nobody had thought to ask me to tell. I didn't know any of this yet. I found out the way you always find out things that have been hidden from you inside a building you walk into every single day. By accident. In a hallway. From someone who assumed I already knew. Her name was Renee. She was a senior associate on the 2nd floor, the kind of person who knew everything happening in a building before it was officially happening. We'd worked together on a deal 3 years prior, and we had the easy, honest relationship of 2 people who had survived a difficult project together. She stopped me in the hallway on a Tuesday afternoon. She had a coffee in one hand and a confused look on her face that I didn't understand yet. She said she'd just come out of a committee pre-meeting. She said she wanted to ask me something and she hoped it wasn't awkward. Then she said that she had heard Daniel present his case for the MD seat that morning and that a lot of what he described, the Kellerman restructuring, the Northfield relationship, the 2019 turnaround, sounded very familiar to her. She looked at me carefully. She said, "Those were your deals, Marcus, weren't they?" I stood very still in that hallway. Because they were. Every single one. The Kellerman restructuring was 18 months of my life. I had slept 4 hours a night for 2 of those months. The Northfield relationship existed because I had driven 3 hours each way to a lunch nobody else wanted to attend. For times, before that client trusted us with a single dollar. The 2019 turnaround had my fingerprints on every page of every document. And my brother had walked into a room and presented them as the evidence of his own capability. Not mine. His. I thanked Renee. I kept my voice even. I told her I appreciated her telling me, and I walked back to my office and I closed the door. And then I sat there for a long time doing what I do when something doesn't add up. I started making a list. Every deal Daniel had referenced in meetings I had heard about secondhand. Every relationship he had claimed credit for in rooms I hadn't been in. Every time someone senior had said something to me that I hadn't quite understood in the moment. A comment that now suddenly had a different shape. The list got long fast. This wasn't one slip. This wasn't a brother who got carried away once and overclaimed in a moment of pressure. This was a system, built carefully, over more than a year, designed to move his name into the space where mine should have been. And it had almost worked completely. Almost. Because Daniel made one mistake. The same mistake people always make when they build something on a foundation that isn't theirs. He didn't account for the person who actually built it showing up to the same room. The formal committee review was scheduled for a Thursday morning. Both of us had been asked to present. 15 minutes each. Standard process for a seat of this level. The committee was 7 people, 5 internal and 2 external board members. One of those external members was the firm's founding chairman, Robert Calloway. I had met Calloway exactly once. 4 years earlier, at a client dinner where I had been the only analyst in a room full of principals. He had asked me a question about the Northfield account and we had talked for 20 minutes. At the end of the conversation, he had handed me his card and told me to call him if I ever needed anything. I had kept the card. I had never used it. I thought about that card a lot in the 3 days between Renee's hallway and the Thursday morning review. I did not confront Daniel. That was a deliberate choice. In my experience, the moment you tell someone you know what they've done, they stop being a person and become a strategy. I didn't want his strategy. I wanted the truth in front of witnesses. So I prepared my presentation the same way I had prepared every piece of work in my career. Carefully, completely, and I made one addition that I had never needed to make before. I pulled the documentation. Every deal I had led, I had the records. Emails with my name at the top. Internal memos I had authored. Client correspondence addressed to me directly. Approval chains that ran through my login. 12 years of work leaves a paper trail if you know where to look, and I knew exactly where to look. I didn't build a dramatic reveal. I didn't prepare a speech designed to embarrass anyone. I simply made sure that every claim I made in that room had a source document sitting one slide behind it. Quiet, factual, undeniable. Daniel presented first. I sat in the back and I listened to him tell my stories one more time. He was good, confident without being arrogant, specific enough to sound credible. He had practiced. I could tell he had practiced a lot. When he finished, the committee nodded. Calloway had not looked up from his notes the entire time. Then it was my turn. I walked to the front of the room. I set up my first slide. And before I said a single word about my qualifications, I looked at the committee and I said I wanted to start by addressing something that I believed the room deserved to have clarified. Calloway looked up. For the first time that morning, he looked directly at me. And he said very quietly, "I was wondering when someone was going to do that." The room went completely still. Because Robert Calloway had been at that client dinner 4 years ago. He had asked me about the Northfield account. He had talked to me for 20 minutes. He knew exactly whose work had just been presented to him under the wrong name. He had been sitting in that room for 15 minutes waiting to see if I would say something. I said something. I didn't raise my voice once. That's the part one want you to understand before I tell you what happened next. Because everything that followed, every consequence, every silence, every moment that I will carry with me for the rest of my life, happened in a room where I stayed completely calm. No theatrics, no accusations delivered with anger, just documentation presented clearly by the person who had actually created it. I walked the committee through 12 years of work. My name on the emails, my name on the approval chains, my signature on the client letters, the Kellerman restructuring sourced, the Northfield relationship sourced, the 2019 turnaround sourced. Every claim Daniel had made that morning, I placed the original document behind it with my name already on it. Took 11 minutes. Halfway through, I heard Daniel shift in his seat behind me. When I finished, I set down the clicker and I said one final thing. I said that I was not there to accuse my brother of anything. I said the documents could speak for themselves, and I would let the committee decide what they said. Then I sat down. Calloway was quiet for a long moment. Then he took off his glasses, set them on the table, and he looked at Daniel directly. He said he had a simple question. He asked Daniel to name the lead contact on the Northfield account at the time of the initial engagement. Daniel said a name. It was the wrong name. It wasn't even close to the right name, because Daniel had never been in that room. He had only heard me describe it on a Sunday phone call 3 years earlier, and somewhere between my description and his retelling, a detail had gotten lost. A detail that Calloway himself knew because Calloway had been at that same dinner in that same room, speaking to the actual person who had built that relationship. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I have ever heard in a professional setting. Daniel did not get the seat. He resigned from Hargrove Capital 6 weeks later. We have not spoken since. I don't say that with satisfaction. He is still my brother. And losing a brother, even one who did what he did, is not something that feels like winning. The MD seat was offered to me 4 months after that Thursday morning. I took it. But here is the thing I think about most when I look back on all of it. It was never really about the seat. It was about 12 years of work that nearly got buried under someone else's name. Work I had done quietly, correctly, without ever imagining I would need to defend it against someone I had trusted completely. The most dangerous betrayals in your life will rarely come from strangers. They come from the people who sat close enough to learn exactly which parts of your story were worth stealing. Trust carefully, document everything, and never assume that the people who ask you how you built something are only asking because they admire it. That's where I'll leave it tonight. If the story hit something real for you, subscribe to Betrayed Blood. Drop a comment below with the word share if you've ever had someone take credit for what you built. And share this with one person who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next one.